Hello, guys. Hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks for being here. This is a video social media challenge. I'm your host, Fabiola Lara. If you've been tuning in for all 5 days of these amazing lessons. So today I'm going to cover how to create pretty quick, okay, not the quickest thing on earth, but pretty quick reels out of your video podcasting, out of your video podcast. So let's get right into it. Let's head on over to Premiere and remember that you can download the project files and follow along in the project files. I'm just going to give you a heads up here. I created like a faux podcast that you can play with me and Andrew Hockrattle, which I always say incorrectly. So there's a fake video podcast in the project file. So go take a look. And right there, I've built out some sequences for you, which will allow you to play around with everything that I'm showing you right now. So you can replicate this, and I've created it already for you. So if you need to like look at those files and just see exactly how everything's linked, you can download those files and play around with it. I really recommend it. It kind of helps to make sure that you're like grasping the concepts. Okay, so for today, I'm back here with this sequence, which we've been working on. And, we have our intro. Here's the pink. In the green, we have the interview. Here's like a little ad break. And then our outro and our outro graphic for YouTube. So I muted it just so that, we don't have to hear that scrubbing while we're working on this. So you can see all of this is horizontal, which is great when you go to upload your video podcast to, let's say, something like YouTube. But if you want to upload Reels or TikToks, this isn't really going to cut it, right? Like we have this video footage, we need to make the most of it. And uploading a horizontal video to a Reel is just kind of like meh. So let me show you one easy way to do it. So if you remember from our multicam lesson, we have all these different views for the same interview, right? With me and the guest here, Eugenia Viti. But we need it to be vertical. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the multicam, which is here where we have our different views. So you can see here, I have the dual view that we created. Then I have view A, like myself, and then Eugenia. So that's great, but we need it to be vertical. So what I want you to do for your project is to select the little clip that you want to make into a reel. This should generally be like a clip that's really stands out on its own. You don't need like the entire minute or 2 minutes of conversation to understand what's happening. It's usually like a really hooky statement or someone says something bold like, I hate watermelon, or I don't know, something delicious that everyone be like, why do you hate that? Something slightly controversial or just a bold statement, something grabby. So that little clip is what I want you to select. I found one here. So in my podcast, I talked to Eugenia about creativity. That's what my podcast Draws in Spanish is all about. So here's the clip that I selected. And so right from this multicam version, I just went through and found a really compelling little clip. And I removed that third view. So you can see here, we have this dual view. I went ahead and removed it. So we only have me and Eugenia. Okay. So here's the clip that I'm going to play it for you so you kind of get a grasp. So can you tell me about your experience working collaboratively? Quick thing here, it's unedited. I would typically cut myself asking the question. So to start like right about here.
Yeah, I love that you said that because I feel like I'm that way too. Generally, I don't like to share I'm like, okay, I want it to be this way. Like I think as an illustrator, like creative person, having all of the control in what something is like is part of the fun, like part of why you want to be an illustrator, why you like to create.
So it's all about where we're talking about collaboration. I promise you there's like little hooky bits in there, but this is kind of this is the raw segment. And so I'm going to show you how I work this. So we need to first make this vertical, right? So with this selection that I have, which is about 2 minutes, which is honestly a little long, but I'm going to cut it, I think right about here. I remember. So okay, so I'm going to cut that part. And I'm going to cut the part where I ask the question because that's generally not necessary. Okay, so now I made it a little shorter, and then I'm going to actually edit it itself, and I'll show you that. But let's work with this clip here. So with this clip, now I want to make it vertical. I suggest selecting your clip and then making it vertical, because otherwise, if you make your entire interview vertical, it really takes a lot from your computer. So just keep that in mind. So what we're going to do is hit with the sequence selected. I'm going to hit sequence, and then I'm going to go to auto reframe sequence. And I already have it selected at vertical, but make sure you have vertical selected. And I'm going to write V3 because I have quite a few of these in my project, because I was, figuring it all out and making sure it was all running smoothly ahead of our stream. Okay. So when you create an auto reframe sequence, you actually Premiere automatically makes you this little bin with all your auto reframe sequences. So I'm going to find it here. See, I told you. I told you have plenty of them. So here's V3, right? Okay. So Premiere magically made this into a vertical sequence. And you can see even the guest is now vertical.
Like, just so nice and friendly and so funny.
So there you have it. Now, what about the dual view? We lost the dual view, right? You can't auto reframe that dual view. It just won't work because it's horizontal. And so you just get kind of like, it works. It just kind of switches between the two cameras in a bit of an awkward way. So I don't recommend doing it like that. That's why I'm showing you this way. So now with this, we're going to go ahead and make that dual view. If you watch the multicam lesson, I went over this a little bit more slowly. So maybe check that lesson out as part of this lesson, but I'm going to review it now here. So to make that dual view, we need to put these two clips basically together into one view. So that's why I copied and moved the copy over here. So now we have the same exact thing, but we're going to actually create some custom graphics and work this all out. So I'm going to go to the captions and graphics workspace. I'm going to turn this off. Okay. Nope. Okay. So it should look something like this. I am going to grab this rectangle tool, select that, and basically make our window again like we had in the horizontal. So these might not be the exact colors, but you'll get the gist of it. Okay, wonderful. And then I'm going to make the cutouts for each guest. Because we're working vertically, they tend to be a little bit more horizontal than perfect squares. Just, a little heads up for you guys. And then I'm going to curve the edges. So we have about 25. Okay. Right click, duplicate that shape. Now we have a second one. Okay. So now we have it stacked. I'm going to drag these a little bit down. You have to remember, when you make a reel, you have all this UI that you got to think about, right? So things coming up on the sides, the top, the bottom. So that's why I kind of leave those spaces a little empty. And now we're going to extend this graphic all the way across this segment, right? The second copy of the segment on the sequence. And I'm going to select the shape. Well, they're all called the same thing, but this shape and then the second shape, I'm going to select it. I'm going to hit mask with shape, and then I'm going to hit invert, and everything's fine. Okay. So don't worry about that. So once you hit invert, now we need to put each guest in these little boxes, right? But remember, we already applied that auto reframe, and it's really hard sometimes when you adjust the auto reframe. It can take up a lot of memory from your computer. It can be really hard on your computer, or it can just also be really just like finicky. So what I like to do is I delete the auto reframe, and then I scale. I'm going to move myself up. All right, that's about good. And then for Eugenia, I'm also going to delete the auto reframe and move her down. Okay, to the right. Scale. Okay, and then you can see that for my version, I kind of need to be cropped. So I'm going to go to Media Browser. Oops, I meant to say Effects, and search for crop. And you'll find this video effect called crop. So you want to drag that to the segment, to the video clip that you want to crop. Drop it. All right. And you'll see that it shows up in your effect controls. So I'm going to crop at the bottom. And now I can see that I need to move my guest up. All right. So now let's see.
I love that you said that, because I feel like I'm that way too.
Great. It looks great. So we have a couple more things to do before we can move on. Select all of it, hit right click, nest, and I'm going to call this nested sequence dual view vertical. Why did I do it all caps? I'm not sure. It's a habit. Hit OK. We're going to go back to the project view. And now we want this view to be next to all the other views, but we don't need the duplicate audio, right? It's the same audio. So delete that. And then we're going to move this nested sequence over to all of these sequences. And now we have dual view, me, and my guest. Wonderful. Now we need to do the multicam thing again. So select it all, right click, and then hit nest, not multicam. Hit nest, and we're going to call this the multicam nest. Hit OK. All right. And actually, we should probably call it multicam nest vertical so we can keep track of everything. Okay. Oh, I didn't rename the actual nest. Multicam or vertical. Okay. If you're not following along, let me know in the chat. I'm happy to answer any questions. All right. So now that we're here, now we just do right click, multicam, enable, and then hit the toggle multi-camera view. If you don't have this button, hit plus and you should see it in here and just drag it down. So when I have that selected, I see all my views once again. So from here, I can just edit my multicam sequence the same way. So I'm going to hit the space bar and I'm going to hit, this is frame 1, this is frame 2, or camera 1, camera 2, camera 3. So now with my keyboard, I just hit 1, 2, or 3, and that should be it. So I wanted it to start on camera 1, so that makes sense.
I love that you said that because I feel like I'm that way too. Generally, I don't like to share. Let's say I'm gonna go like 3. I'm like, okay, I want it to be this way. Like, I think as an illustrator, like creative person, having all of the control in what something is like is part of the fun. Like, part of why you want to be an illustrator, why you like to create. So just like that, and you'll see that it starts to create these multicam cuts automatically, and that's what you want. Now, let me show you. I had previously prepared this just to speed things up a touch, and I think it's, well, we have a lot of duplicates here because I tried it. I was playing with it quite a few times. I think it's this one. Here we go. So here you can see I made captions, but we're not there yet. So I'm going to go ahead and delete those captions. All right, so here's how I cut it. I think as an illustrator. Oh no, my multicam is gone. All right, that's okay. Let's go back to the one we were working on, which is, I think it's this one. Okay. Oh, where'd it go? It's this one. Okay. So it works like this. Let's keep on playing and recording. It's really cool because you get to talk to and meet like all kinds of cool people. Like Irving Ron, he's like a friend of mine that I made through collaborating for the New Yorker, and he's like, check out what's going on. Just so nice and friendly and so funny, and it's cool to like bounce ideas off one another. Yes. So Yes Bliss, or like Ginny Hogan, like she's really funny too. And okay, Yes Bliss, when you render, it renders with the multi-camera, so you just see this, not these views. You just see this when you go to render. So I'm going to say that it's just to speed things up. I'm going to say these are the cuts that we're going to make. In reality, I think I cut out a bunch of the talking in between to make it a little snappier, but you know, that's personal choice, how snappy you want to make it. Yes, Bliss. So, you know, we had a question come in from the chat. How does it render? It renders. So when you're editing, you're selecting between these cameras. But when you go to render, it actually just renders here, which is your program monitor. So it renders just like this. So that's the cool part. Okay. So once you have selected how you want your multicam to work, now you can add some captions real quick. So I just want to run you through that. So if you go to, let's go to the captions and graphics. Okay, we're already there. Hit text and we hit transcribe sequence, English, mix all the audio that we have on there. So it recognizes when different speakers are talking. We hit transcribe and pretty quickly it will transcribe all of that. I love using this because it really helps me edit. So sometimes I'll even do this before I edit. So I actually don't even usually label my speakers when I'm working in this part because I just want it to be quick. So I'm going to hit create captions and then we're going to hit the style. I have this style set.
Okay, so I'm gonna hit create, and now it'll create these captions. So check it out. They're right there. And this style I chose because I wanted something that would be in the center, because I kind of feel like that's what's popular when you work in like vertical videos. Like everyone wants that text in the center, and you kind of just, yeah, I know it looks like really, really kind of ugly and in the way, but once you're on those platforms, it feels really normal for the text to be right in the middle. So, and you don't even have to make it very big. It can just be in the middle. And so something that you can also do is edit your graphic to fit that space, if you want to, but sometimes I feel like it's truly better just as long as the text is there. It's not super important. The legibility, I feel like it just gets people to, I mean, you want it to be legible, but it just helps people follow things. They usually listen with audio anyway. So now I'm just editing kind of like the spacing of it. So you can kind of make it wider, but you don't want it to be too wide. So kind of just do it like that. And so in my actual cut that I made, I am going to edit out some of these chunks. So let's go through and edit out some of the part where, even though I love, and it's included in the actual podcast, that Eugenia's shouting out, some people that she's collaborated with. To make a snappy reel, you want it to be maybe 20 seconds max. Right now we have a minute and 20 seconds. We have a whole minute to cut out. So let's get to it.
Collaborating is really cool because you get to talk to and meet like all kinds of cool people.
So I think that part is kind of like the hook. Collaborating is cool because you get to meet all kinds of cool people. I feel like people agree with that. So I'm going to cut it right there. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm just going to cut, and I'm cutting the audio as well because I want the audio for that to be the same, right? To follow it. So that's like kind of a rough cut, but don't worry because we can fine tune it in a second. So I'm going to delete those parts and then see.
Like Irving Ran, he's like,
so I like that, obviously in the actual podcast, you might keep all of that, but if you're making a reel, you want it to be snappy. So let's see what other part.
Just so nice and friendly and so funny, and it's cool to like bounce ideas.
I want that part. It's cool to bounce ideas off each other.
It's cool to like bounce ideas off one another, or like Ginny Hogan. Like,
okay, so I'm gonna cut that part out.
Or like Ginny Hogan.
Right here. So this is a cool thing, is if you actually put the captions first, then it's kind of awesome to be able to read the captions and edit just like according to your captions without having to like listen so hard.
I sometimes do like a.
Okay, so I'm going to cut right there. All right. So we have about, let's see. All right. So I think we had cut that. I'm going to delete this part because we want it to be snappy. So let's see. I think it was cutting this part. This part right here. And now let's keep playing. So I'm not sure if you guys can see that actually, but let me make it a little smaller.
I sometimes do like a little bit of like a call kind of with, if I'm going to collaborate with someone, I'll be like, okay, let me get you on the phone for like half an hour and just chat, because you learn from people, like kind of like doing this podcast. You can like,
ooh, interesting. That's fascinating. I'm not sure if my comment really adds anything to the conversation, but I do feel like it helps end kind of that note. So I'm going to cut it right after I say that's fascinating. So now I'm going to trim everything off. So all I'm doing to do that is using the cut, which I showed you in some previous lessons. And now I'm going to just, smush everything together to make that one little reel. And I just remembered that when you add captions and then cut, you also have to delete those captions. Otherwise, it gets a little messy. It won't let you ripple delete nicely. So I'm just going to go through and cut some of those by just clicking and deleting. And I know I hadn't done it previously, but I just wanted to give you that heads up. Okay, so now I should be able to ripple delete, and it all ripple deletes nice and neat with the captions. So let's see. I'm going to close. Wait, oops, we have a little space here, you guys. Ripple delete. Let's see. Okay, I have to cut part of this caption off. All right, so that was a little hacky, you guys, but I hope you followed it. Let's see.
Like Irving Ron.
Oh no,
He's
I
like
think I cut the
a friend
wrong
of mine
spot.
that I
I'm so sorry, you guys. I cut the wrong thing. Classic. When I'm live, I cut the wrong thing. Okay, let's see. Here, that's what I wanted. Here we go.
Collaborating is really cool.
Yes, there we go. Okay, so now I'm cutting this off. Whew, you know, that's what happens when you're not listening closely because I want to make sure I'm chatting with you guys. Okay, now I'm going to delete the captions that don't belong, right? Because we've edited them out. Delete, ripple delete. It should be much better. Let's see.
Collaborating is really cool because you get to talk to and meet like all kinds of cool people.
So this is the part that I wanted to cut out. Just because I feel like, you know, though it's interesting in the full episode, you don't really need it right here. I'm going to hit save, you guys, just in case, because I'm not having the best luck lately. So, okay. And then cut the captions. Okay, we're on a roll. We're back on it. Okay, there we go. And ripple delete. All right, let's see.
Collaborating is really cool because you get to talk to and meet like all kinds of cool people. It's cool to like bounce ideas off one another. Or like Ginny Hogan.
So this was another section I wanted to cut. Delete. Oops. Because these captions are throwing me off now. They've come back to haunt me.
So I sometimes do like a little bit of like a call kind of with, if I'm going to collaborate with someone, I'll be like, okay, let me get you on the phone for like half an hour and just chat, because you learn from people, like kind of like doing this podcast. You can like,
ooh, interesting. That's fascinating. Just because like,
okay, so I even didn't cut the part out that I meant to. Here we go. Okay, so now I'm going to delete the end here because, you know, I don't need to hear myself talk anymore. Cut the caption, select the excess captions, and we're good. Something that you could do too, which I'm going to do, is actually I'm going to delete these. They've become too much of a pain. I probably messed them up. So don't worry about it. You can just delete them and retranscribe your sequence just like that. Now we're creating the most tidy caption sequence. Perfect. Okay. Collaborating is really cool because you get to talk to and meet like all kinds of cool people. Yes, that sounds about right. Create captions. I have this style set. Hit create. All right, let's see what it looks like.
Collaborating is really cool because you get to talk to and meet like all kinds of cool people. It's cool to like bounce ideas off one another. So I
would cut that even. I'm going to go in there and cut it. All right there. I'm going to cut that right out. It didn't even get transcribed, so I have nothing to worry about. I'm just going to delete, right click, ripple delete, and we're good. Oh, but you look, I want to show you what can sometimes happen when you're working with multicams and with any kind of segment. I didn't like cut it, this part of the multicam, I accidentally deleted. No worries though. Like any other clip, you can just extend the multicam and it's fine.
So I sometimes do like a little bit of like a call kind of with, if I'm going to collaborate with someone.
Great. So that looks great. Now, if we want to be even more picky, we can go into the multicam that we created, double click, and that happens, which isn't what I wanted. But what we can go to the actual here, I think it was, yes. And this is still editable. This graphic is still fully editable. So I actually decided I want to move these down just a touch, create some more space right in between so that the caption has more room. I hit save. I go back. And look, we've created a little bit more space for those captions. And now you can just edit those captions. You can just click on them and edit them. So that's how you can like make it look even better for Reels, for TikToks. And then for TikTok, something I recommend doing actually is turning off the subtitle and exporting it without subtitles. So you have the actual TikTok subtitle. So anyways, you got a real look at how I work today. I even selected some wrong clips. We went back, but guess what? We have this amazing reel done. It's going to look cool once it's exported. And yeah, I just love that you can click on captions and still edit them, I can decide to make these a little smaller, maybe that's too small, but you have to remember that you're going to view it like this. So maybe it's not too small. Maybe it's like right about there's fine. We can shift it up. Ooh, that looks great. So I'm going to apply that to all captions on the track and see if there it is. So that's super cool. So I hope you guys like this lesson. We were we got lost a little bit there with all the different clips and cuttings that we were doing, but we got there in the end, my friends. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this final lesson in video podcast editing. You're going to make an amazing video podcast. You're going to share it on Instagram, on TikTok, really, really easily. And I know it seems like a lot of clicking, but it's pretty easy compared to, the other ways that you can edit and upload your video podcast promotions. So thanks so much for watching, everyone. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this series of lessons. And yeah, be sure to hit me up on Instagram. If you have any more questions, leave them in the chat. I'll be sure to get to them. Thanks so much, everyone. Goodbye.